When they gave me the prognosis, they said I had two options. Both of them seemed really bad to me. One was immediate hospitalisation with a slim chance of survival, and the other was go home and you've got 6 months and it's time to get your affairs in order. But what they didn't tell me was that there's a third option. That was 14 years ago, and they said I had 6 months to live tops. 14 years ago. I want to share with you today how I healed myself from really late stage cancer that was spreading through my body. So the next thing that happened was they told me, you've got a choice to make, so you've got to go home and think about what you want to do. So for about 8 or 9 weeks, every day obsessively, I was thinking, am I going to go into the hospital and have a series of exploratory surgeries? Or am I just never going to go back? I'm just going to live the best I can for however many months I have left. In those first meetings with doctors, they scared me a lot with telling me what would happen and what would be happening in my body if I ignored it. They implied that I was very irresponsible, that I was going to make a bad choice if I didn't put myself in their hands. And when I was healed and I went back for the scans later, those same doctors said, oh, it's a miracle. It's a miracle. And the question I had for them was, do these miracles happen often? And who are the miracle healings happening to? Are they happening to the people who do have the surgeries or the people who don't have the surgeries? And they let me know that the miracles that they see are the people who don't have the surgeries, who come in 6 months later and are completely clear of their cancer. I wasn't the only one. This is a known thing within that cancer department in a very nice hospital in London. So they have some information there that wasn't shared with me. I didn't know that was a possibility. I didn't know that they were saying option 1, hospitalisation, option 2, go home to die, option 3, you get a miracle that we don't really understand. If that had even been said, even as a joke, I think it would have helped me open up to researching that. This is why I'm sharing this with you today. Now it can open up as a possibility. You could call it a miracle if you want to, but I believe this is based in neuroscience and real activities that you can do that will change your inner world, that can heal things from the inside out, and that you do have agency. And the funny thing is about this story is I would say that love is what guided me to the correct path in that healing journey in that time, because I had an 11-year-old son. And I realised that if I'm going to die very soon, I need to spend as much time as possible with him, giving him some quality experiences together, so at least he has some good memories of his mum. And I also realised very soon that I was heartbroken at the idea that I've just spent 11 years doing the most important job in my life, raising a child, and I wanted to raise a healthy, happy human. And if a kid is 11 and their mum dies, or 12, I don't know how healthy they're going to be. So I really wanted to live. And the heartbreak felt like it's not that I want to live for me. I just don't want to damage this child that I love more than life itself. The damage I'm going to do, and it's beyond my own power. Like, I'm powerless. There's nothing I can do to change this. I think there had been physical signs, but I'd been trying to ignore them for so long. They were the kind you notice and choose not to notice because that could be dangerous. Now my chest felt tight all the time. My hands would shake. I couldn't eat. I couldn't think straight. I needed the doctors to tell me what to do. You see, one of the things that I found very difficult when I received that prognosis was when I asked, so if I come into hospital for the surgeries, are you going to be able to cure me? They said, well, we don't actually have a cure for cancer. And when I later asked, at that time I was very stressed and I wasn't asking all the right questions, but later I asked, so why am I going to have a series of exploratory surgeries if there's no cure? And I remember the doctor looked at me really kind of glum, like, this is the best we can offer. This is what we have right now. We can explore, but we can't really guarantee that when we find something bad in you, that we're going to be able to fix it. The third option was this. I stopped. Not because I was wise or because I knew what I was doing, just that the fear was so overwhelming it broke through everything I'd been using to cope. Suddenly, there was only now and there was only him. I managed to lower my stress almost to nothing, and I now had just one single priority to place my focus on. And in that shift, my body began to heal. At first, I tried to act normal. I tried to go back to my work, to our normal life. I would drive my son to school. I tried to continue like nothing had changed, and I tried to keep a brave face on it so that my son wouldn't see how devastated I was. I remember so many evenings during that time sitting on the bathroom floor just weeping and trying to keep the noise down so that my son wouldn't overhear me. You know, I'd put the television on for him because I'd know I couldn't keep those emotions in any longer. And I'd go to the bathroom and it would kind of explode out of me, the pain and the heartbreak. And thank goodness that I found some of these healing tools, because it felt so overwhelming. It felt unbearable. Now that I look back, I realise that might not have been the best idea to keep a brave face on it all day and to pretend to my son that everything was okay, because he sensed that it wasn't okay. And it would have been so much better to talk to him, but I was trying to protect him from this painful situation and this outcome that looked certain. Gradually, I started changing my daily routine because I had no choice. I couldn't really function. So instead of starting work in the mornings, I would now go and sit on the beach and watch the waves of the sea. And somehow that felt soothing. Somehow it felt good to see a world that was bigger than just me. And it felt reassuring to hear the sound of the waves crashing onto the sand. It made me feel calm. And I noticed that these moments of calm were a huge relief, when my brain wasn't looping around that question, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? It was like an obsessive, never-ending thought that wouldn't stop and wouldn't leave me alone. So over time, I found other ways to seek peace for my brain. I discovered a meditation teacher on YouTube who I found very strange. I had never meditated before, but it helped soothe me. It helped give me moments of calm and peace. And that was the best I could hope for at that time. So I started doing that every day. I found that I felt good, even though I was scared. It sort of crept up on me over time. I was sleeping better. I was doing these little meditations. I didn't realize how much impact they were having. I was getting to spend so much more time with my son, which was the joy of my life. Because up to that point, I'd been working so hard. I was a single mum, and I was just trying to keep a roof above our heads. And my focus was always on work, money, how are we going to be okay? And suddenly, all of that was not so important. All that was important was this moment, this day. What shall we do to be happy? What can we do to be connected to each other and close? What will be good for him and for me? And looking back, I realised how nourishing that was for my system. I had been depriving myself of the most important love and connection in my life by having my attention on work, my fears of money. All of a sudden, my priorities were very clear. My feeling was, if we could just make this last as long as possible, if I could just get a little bit more time, this would be great. And back then, I didn't really believe. I didn't have faith, but I started praying. I think that happens to a lot of people. when we get given a very scary thing that happens to us. And looking back, I realise now, my prayers were definitely granted, because I prayed over and over that if I could just live until my son turned 16, it was a deal. Because it felt so painful that he wouldn't have a mum for those crucial years. And for some reason in my head, 16 seemed kind of adult. It felt better than 11. 16 years old, almost adult. Like in the UK, you can drive when you're 16. You can start learning to drive a car. So that felt like a deal that I was so hoping I would be given. So I would pray. But my son is now 25. So I'm so grateful. I had no healthcare plan in Spain, no insurance, no safety net, just sunshine, very little money, and my son. And it was on a routine trip back to London when a doctor noticed something behind my ear, a mole that had changed. He sent me straight to the hospital. That's how it started. What was happening in my body made sense to me only much later. For years before that, I'd been working constantly because staying busy meant I didn't have to feel what was underneath. Holding everything together as a single mum, not asking for help, and the stress, the grief, the loneliness, all of it buried. Looking back, I realised I was very lucky because I already lived right near the beach, just in front of the mountains in Malaga, in Andalusia in Spain. So I lived in a place that had a lot of nourishment already in the local soil, in the local food, in the local climate, in the local access to beaches and outdoor living. Also, it's a very low stress culture. So I didn't know it at the time, but I happened to be in the perfect place to help my nervous system start to regulate. I know how lucky that was. I can't pretend those conditions didn't matter. They did. But the body wants to heal. It's always moving towards healing if we let it. What I did, accidentally and imperfectly, was get out of the way. I followed love. I let grief move through me instead of holding it back. And somehow that was enough. So I chose my son, and I chose to try to maintain a certain quality of living with him for a few months and to create as much happiness, relaxation, closeness for us as possible. And that choice saved my life.